completely overturning what she said. And I know that through Toastmasters that you kind of found your own tribe and your own life with that. I'm very, very blessed that I suppose my tribe is local history, and I'm very, very passionate about Cork as a place. I'm an independent city councillor that has been here for 15 years, and in my 14th, 15th year I'm Lord Mayor of Cork and Chair of my council. But I want to bring you into what I call the main guest space, because it's actually just a small number of you. I want to show you some loads of nice little objects that people don't really see that often, especially when with international guests as well. You probably just need to put down the tea or any glass of wine. That's the, and no jumping and diving when we actually go into the Feel free. Any takers? Going once? Going twice? Sold!
Lorna, go on!
Well done, Lorna.
Tell her, yes! Lorna,
no, take the tour.
Lorna, where's the gavel? Order. Aiden, take a picture.
I don't know how you want to push through.
I think Father's going.
Really? Want to push through?
Order.
When you're there?
There's two more seats there. There's a seat over there in the JFK corner.
It's really easy to spot the JFK corner.
I came prepared. I brought mine.
What I say,
So you're in a city hall building which is like the 7th known city hall in 1,000 years. So you can imagine city hall number 1 is the straw roof timber walls, somewhere around South Main Street. City hall number 6 was burnt out by the Black and Tans during the Irish War of Independence, and it took them 16 years to rebuild this building that you're actually in. And when the designers, who were actually the architectural firm Jones and Kelly from Dublin, I won't hold that against them, when they decided to create this particular space, they had the drawings all done by 1924, but there was problems drawing down the insurance and compensation claims in Westminster, and it's September 1936 it took to reopen the whole space. But they wanted 3 main rooms in particular to showcase the work of the council. One was the council chamber that you're in, and this is the second space, and actually just maybe 50 metres that direction is the concert hall space. But I say to people, like, when they come into this particular space, it was a Dublin-based company that designed it, but they actually got people from Cork to do the craft work. And so you can see the lovely kind of architraves here, you can see the cornice piece. And I also say to people, like, they got master Cork crafts people to do the doors and the design. So all the timber work you see, the Resolute desk is a 1980s gift. This was done by someone in the 1930s. So you're talking 10, 12, 13 years after kind of the birth of the Irish Free State, and we began to build this kind of particular city hall. And so, I suppose my first point to you is that everywhere you go in this building, it's like a master crafts person created it that was based from Cork. Why do I mention that to you? Because you're master crafts people, and what you do is you're Toastmasters. It's in your name. And that you're good at what you do in terms of bringing people together, and that these spaces are also about kind of bringing people together. The second thing is that in this particular space, there are remnants from whatever the 6 city halls before this. So you're in the 7th space. So we have objects from what I call City Hall number 5, which is 1700s. So these are the oldest objects. People usually ask me, Kieran, what are the oldest objects? These are the oldest objects. I can pass these around. Do not drop these. These are silver maces. The date on the side of these silver maces is 1738. So they're over 300 years old. These were made by French Huguenots, who were again craftspeople, who were master craftspeople. Huguenots, if you're not familiar with kind of Western European history, Huguenots were Protestants that were kicked out of the Catholic France in the 1680s. They ended up in British Protestant port towns. By 1750, there was probably maybe 500 Huguenots in Cork kind of living and kind of doing a lot of craft work. There is one name on this, if you are from Cork, there's a name called Christopher Carlshire, Carleton. Mr. Carleton and Mr. Perry in the 1720s, they built a sailcloth factory in the southern suburbs of the city. And the sailcloth factory lasted for about 120 years, so kind of folded just before the time of the Great Famine. The factory disappeared, but the village that was created around the factory stayed. And in today's terms, it's Douglas Village. That's what's that. So Mr. Carleton and Perry were kind of involved in the creation of Douglas Village. And so these are kind of really interesting pieces. Probably in today's world, we've got 4 of these. As you can see, there's 2 in here, and there's one.
Oh my God, Eric.
They're probably each worth €50,000 each.
How much?
Wow.
€50,000.
50,000. No, don't give to her.
So these are the oldest. These are the oldest objects we have in the room. They were created as processional pieces, so and they'd be carried before the mayor of Cork, and so that the mayor of Cork would actually kind of walk behind the maces. They're still used today at very special events like the AGM, the election of the Lord Mayor at this moment in time. So that usually people ask the question, what are the oldest objects? They're the oldest objects. And then people kind of ask, well, what other old stuff do you have? This is the second oldest object in the room. On the back of this gold chain, it says this chain was created in 1787. Wow. 87. Now, there is a context to kind of the silver mace being created, so 1738, 1787. During the 1700s, Cork was making a lot of money out of butter and beef. We exported 100,000 barrels of butter, 60,000 barrels of beef to the British Empire. Made a lot of money. The coffers of the council began to be filled up, and it began to use some of the taxation and investment into objects, civic objects in particular. So you can, and I should tell you, this is the 4th known chain in 1,000 years. We do know that chain 1 and 2 existed in medieval times. Chain number 3 is safely in the museum at Fitzgerald's Park. It's in a cabinet, safe. And this is chain number 4. You can imagine what this chain has seen in its 237 years. You can imagine the amount of stories this chain has also kind of been involved with, and also the amount of debates that this chain has been present at. I say that as well to connect to what you get involved in terms of public speaking, debates, bringing people together. There is a link there as well. Now the other thing with the chain is on the front of the medallion is the city's coat of arms. Now the thing is that if it's on this medallion in 1787, and it's actually on the base of the silver maces from 1738, it means the coat of arms that what we know today, the 2 towers and the ship in between, existed. And interestingly enough, we have old maps of Cork from 400 years ago that show the coat of arms, the 2 towers and the ship in between. So we at least know the coat of arms is over 400 years old, the one that we know today. Prior to that, there are other images that are not the ones that we have today, not the one we have today. The ancient thing about the coat of arms, you can see it inscribed, what I call blown up in the carpet here, is that it kind of symbolises an old kind of medieval harbour. And so this castle was called King's Castle. This castle was called Queen's Castle, even though no king or queen ever lived in Cork, English king or queen. We know nothing about the ship. Now the thing about King's Castle is that it remained as a kind of a castle into the early 1700s, and then actually it was converted into a courthouse in the early 1700s, and then we actually built a new courthouse on what's now Washington Street in the 1830s, and this courthouse closed, and then shortly afterwards, 1830s, late 1830s, the building that existed, which wasn't a tower, maybe it was like a 2-3 story building, was converted into a shopping centre, and they called it Queen's Old Castle Shopping Centre. And they called it Queen's Old Castle Shopping Centre because Queen Victoria was just on the throne.
Is it possible that the ship was Walter Raleigh's ship?
I've never read that. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist, or the narrative doesn't exist. Queen's Castle, they actually found Queen's Castle in 1986. They were digging up Castle Street. Oh, outside the Rosie House pub, and they actually found the rectangular foundations of Queen's Castle. And so the main harbour itself is somewhere between the Roundy House pub and somewhere back by what I call Deals. If you dig up deals, you should actually find the foundations of King's Castle. And so there's a hole filled in the harbour. Now, why do I say all of that to you? Because one of the things they did in Cork 75 years ago is that they decided to register the coat of arms. So 1949 we registered the coat of arms for the first time, and we actually have the official document over here.
I think that's the Innistrad myself.
I like your storytelling. This is a very important, for those of us who are from Cork, this is the actual document signed by the Chief Herald creating officially the city's coat of arms, the two towers and the ship in between, and this is from 1949. Okay, so silver maces, the oldest. The second oldest is the chain, and you've got the links to the coat of arms. The third oldest object in the room is actually this. This is actually from around 1850. This is an admiral's hat. One of the things that the mayor of Cork got 500 years ago is that we were made Admiral of Cork Harbour. Technically, if I wear this hat and go out in a rowing boat, I can tell people to get off the harbour. Which I don't do. Would anyone like to wear this hat?
Paul.
We have two more. You can see there's two more.
We need a picture that, please.
Well, there's a ship here. No, the thing about the my jurisdiction, my jurisdiction as admiral goes from just before Port's Point, and it runs all the way to the straight road as it meets the Ballincollig roundabout. If you ever go to the straight road, there's a fortified house on a cliff side. And next to that, there's actually a tower house. That's from that's 800 years old. The ruins of an old tower house. My boundary of my admiralty is actually there. For many, many years, so somewhere in the 1600s and the 1700s, there was a tradition that was made that the mayor actually be rowed out into Cork Harbour, and the mayor would actually throw this long 2-metre dart into the water itself. We still do that, but we're brought out with a naval boat, and we dress up in the Admiralty hat, and we throw this 2-metre rod, and then actually as you throw the rod, and you kind of face the camera and go, yeah, and then you kind of walk away, and then they'll actually have a little piece of twine now attached to the dart. If you have 500 darts inside Roach's Point stuck in the mud, don't have that in
The ship's cannon, no?
No. The other thing is that I mean, the Admiralty was something that was really, really important to Cork people. There were naval boats, little boats that would go around Cork Harbour, and to make sure that you weren't illegally fishing, you could only fish at kind of certain times of the year. In particular, there was Black Rock fishermen, so the summer of a Black Rock in the city, where a lot of some of those individuals are completely impoverished. They needed to fish. If they were caught, then they were actually hauled into an Admiralty court, which was held at Black Rock Castle. So Black Rock Castle was like the main Admiralty court for the city. It's now got a massive telescope looking for the universe, and into you kind of have it. So there's a few kind of interesting kind of connections there. But that's like what I call the where's he gone with that? I'm not that nice. Anybody else want to try it before I put it back? Okay, that was your last shot of being Admiral of Cork Harbour. Third oldest object. So the thing is that also in this room, like there's lots of what I call British, like pre-war of independence stuff. But there's also what I call War of Independence memories. When this building opened in September 1936, and Eamon de Valera, who was president of the Free State at the time, opened it. He did make a number of speeches, kind of calling upon the War of Independence history. And so, to begin with, in terms of that narrative and that kind of line of questioning, when the building did open in September 1936, this was the key that was used to open the building. So it's a gorgeous, lovely gold key. It's got even de Valera's kind of name on it. I always kind of get asked the question, well, does this key open anything now? And one of the first things I did as Lord Mayor was go down to check with this key if he doesn't actually open anything, and it doesn't because the locks have been changed. So you can get that kind of question out of your head. The other thing is that when Eamon de Valera gave his speech, he dedicated the building to two War of Independence Lord Mayors who lost their lives during the War of Independence in 1920. The first gentleman is here, Tomas McCarthy. Tomas McCarthy was from the Mourne Abbey area of North Cork, kind of grew up as a child then kind of in the Blackpool area of the city. Big interest in Irish language, into Irish history. 35 years of age, in January 1920 becomes Lord Mayor of Cork. There's this massive surge in support for Sinn Féin, and at the same time kind of the old English aristocracy were just dying off, and Sinn Féin just surged, and then there was also kind of a pressure on 4 years on from the Easter Rising. Becomes Lord Mayor, is Lord Mayor till late March, and he's shot in his bed in late March by reputed by RIC forces. And there was a massive inquest on who shot Tomas McCurtain, and there was like 91 witnesses that were actually called, and it was kind of concluded by a jury of the inquest that the RIC, the Royal Irish Constabulary, were involved in his execution. But the thing is that the jury itself, when we go through the jury, they were actually all Sinn Féin IRA men. Who actually came to the conclusion, and one of their own shot the RIC. It's a really interesting story, but in the inquest as well, they interviewed his wife Maura, and Maura was like, just gives the story of, she woke up in the middle of the night, the door was kind of completely shaking, the door was kind of kicked off its hinges, these blackened faces ran up the stairs. She gives the story of screaming at them, do not go near my kids, and then they blow 2 bullets into his abdomen, and he dies, and there's a story of her just kind of stroking his hair going, please don't die. And why am I saying that? Because sometimes you can just, pictures like this can be reduced to just a human stat. This guy was very much very, very real. He actually died on his birthday, his 36th birthday. He was replaced a week later by this gentleman called Terence McSweeney, a good friend of his. Terence, very much into the Irish language, born on North Main Street, a writer, a playwright, also in his 30s, mid-30s, had been involved in kind of the ongoing, what I call the rise of the rising, I suppose, from 1916 onwards, and the rise of kind of like, maybe we could get something better if we were outside of the British Empire. Takes over Tomas McCurtain, and about 3 months into his mayoralty, August 1920, he's arrested in the old concert hall of the 6th City Hall. He's arrested because he was holding a thing called a Dáil court, a Dáil Éireann court. In 1920, Dáil Éireann was illegal. Because it was British-based courts that had the law. He was arrested, he was charged with sedition, and then actually he was brought to Cork Barracks on the top of the north side, and he was charged, and he actually had this chain on him.
Whoa.
We have the interrogation report, and he was asked to remove the chain, and he said to the interrogating officer, I'd rather die than give you this chain, end quote. Somewhere between Cork Barracks, there was a ship on the quayside. They took this chain from him. So the chain was kept in Cork, and he was shipped to Brixton Prison. He went on hunger strike for 74 days, and very much in the 74th day, his body just collapsed, you can imagine. And then he passes away, and a week later, another Lord Mayor takes on the mantle. Now you can imagine if you were the third Lord Mayor, and your sisters would be worrying. And on the end in the corner, is the picture of the third Lord Mayor called Donal O'Callaghan. A month into Donal Óg's term, he watched the burning of City Hall. And he also watched 5 acres of commercial property off Park Street being burnt out by the Black and Tans, and also the Carnegie Library, which was next door here, also burnt out as well. You can imagine when he took over, like a month later, he just basically went on the run. And so 1921, he ends up in America calling for American support for the War of Independence in Ireland, and very much doesn't come back. By January 1924, his council was like, where is he? Like 3 years later, he hasn't come back, sure. And then you also have commercial people in the city kind of going, well, like, our leader is gone, like, he hasn't come back. It's Civil War, though, was gone, like, where is he? And so he gets unelected as Lord Mayor, and a man called Sean French kind of takes his place. And this was also a time as well when the compensation packages were kind of coming together for the burning of stuff in the city, the county, and across Ireland by the Black and Tans. And so he was missing at the time, but if he did come back, he would have been shot. But we've got lots of reports and writings by Donal Óg on his descriptions of the burning of Cork. In fact, there's an image of him standing in the ruins of the 6th building, just looking up at the ruins, and some of his councillors are just behind him, kind of. You can imagine if you could just press play, he'd probably go, what are we supposed to do now? Because it actually took them 7 years to rebuild Park Street. If you go on Park Street today, you'll see a beautiful Brown Thomas building, the formerly Cash's. It's from 1927. The former Debenhams, formerly Roche Stores, and going to have a new life shortly with other units in it from 1927.
Munster Arcade as well.
Munster Arcade as well, 1927. Very nice, a kind of Art Deco, late 1920s kind of architecture that we have in the city. So that's kind of that particular story there. The other element is that I did mention kind of somebody could sit in the chair over here, is what I call the JFK corner, the John F. Kennedy corner. In 1963, John F. Kennedy was coming back from Berlin, June 1963, from giving a great speech, like what I call Take Down the Berlin Wall. He lands in Ireland. He actually is made freeman of 4 cities/towns in Ireland, of which Cork was one. He lands in what's now Collins Barracks by helicopter. He makes his way down through the city in an open-top car, which is the picture actually here. And then people actually have their hands out to him like he's some sort of a Superman. And he makes his way all the way to City Hall, this particular building. He's greeted on the steps, the image over here, by Sean Casey, who was the Lord Mayor at the time, and then there's a number of other people kind of around him as well. And he gives a huge speech, so it's a picture of him giving a speech in the present-day concert hall below. Someone took a film of that, and then actually someone in recent times has put that film on YouTube. So if you want to see JFK giving a speech on the importance of democracy. He leaves actually from a place called the Boggy Road, down by Victoria Avenue, Victoria Road. And there's accounts there as well for people kind of going by, like he's some sort of a super person kind of taking off in his helicopter. A year later, they renamed the Boggy Road Park Kennedy Park in 1964. And then kind of summer 1964-65, he gets his own little space here. So we connect the narrative of the importance of democracy and people's voices, and that everyone's voice is important, to Tomas and Terence. No, why do I say all of that? It connects to you. Everyone's voice is important. Everyone has something to say. So it's a nice, as you can see, there's a lot of nice connections to what we're doing as well in this room.
Nice
yeah, certainly do. And also there's a few other pieces. This is a document that kind of is the name change from Mayor to Lord Mayor. It's 1900. So I'll get loads of questions on why is it Lord Mayor of Cork. But in 1900, which was like 20 years before the War of Independence, really takes off, and 16 years before the Easter Rising in Dublin, you had a number of people here that were for Home Rule but want to be part of the British Empire, and Queen Victoria grants Lord Mayor status to Belfast, Dublin and to Cork, just to say thanks very much to the people who want Home Rule, who want to be part of the British Empire. 20 years later, it's completely different. So that's just a facsimile of that particular document. This is a picture of the outgoing council. They were in vogue. So there are elections in June of this year. I'm a representative. At this moment in time, I tried to be Lord Mayor and canvasser during my I'm an independent city councillor, as I said. I'm here. This is my 15th year. I would deem that the council that we have, the outgoing council, is quite a progressive council. We drive to the council, and my time, my 15 years here, all the people that I have worked with over the 15 years, have always had the interest of the city at heart and the region at heart, because they come from the community, they come from grassroots. It's like all of you come from grassroots to create what you created as an organisation, and it's the same in local politics. And we are lucky in Cork. Many of the major TDs also come from grassroots. They've made their way up through local government to national government. But whether which this council is up for election or non-election, and there's going to be loads of other candidates putting their names forward as well. This is a picture of my family and my partner. Up over here. This is the model of the SS Sirius, which was presented in the 1980s. The Resolute desk was also a gift of the 1980s. I wish I got a personal gift like that in the 1980s. This is done by Carol Silversmiths. The SS Sirius was the first steamship to go across the Atlantic in 1838 from Cork to New York, and it was dashed off the rocks off Ballycotton kind of later on in time. So that's that.
They preserved the drive shaft of that in Passage. Yeah, that's still there to see.
The captain of the ship is buried in the grave in Passage as well. But it's very, but you are right. Passage has done lots of the story of the Sirius. And that's this particular room. I don't know if you want to see the other room.
Why not?
No, I do know we do have international guests here, and we do need to get to sign the book before they leave. So because you travel such a long way, we'll get you to sign the visitors book on behalf of the group. Is that fair enough?
The group of sense.
Yes.
Do it, Bill.
I can send Bill.
How does it feel to be sitting on it? Yeah?
I thought you were a lady.
Come on over this side, come on over this side. Or I'll send this on you.
No matter, guys, we're pressed for time.
It's interesting seeing the fact that that painting has changed.
That's right,
Yeah.
My mother was born the same year the City Hall was opened.
Have we got everyone? Walking. Council chamber is very much a performative debate space. The Lord Mayor's chamber itself, like the guest receiving space, is full of objects. This is more kind of like more visual, pictorial, I can say that. One of the things the council has done the last 10 years is to get a picture of every single Lord Mayor from 1900 and actually put it on the wall. So the roll call here goes from the first person who was Lord Mayor, so keep in mind 1900, the name changed, so Sir Daniel Hegarty runs all the way back to Joe O'Callaghan in 1999 down here, and then 2000 to 2024 are the pictures in the corridor outside. So basically what happens is that every 25 years, one of the pictures outside is actually brought in here in your archive to a black and white image. In 25 years time, I come in here and I live in here, an archived image forevermore. One of the things I'm trying to do at the moment is that we are lucky there is a history of the Lord Mayors of Cork, and I've commissioned someone just to write maybe a paragraph in that. So because you don't get the sense of, yeah, we know the name, but who was the person, when did they get elected, what's their context. If you're from Cork, you'll recognise many of the names. You'll all know Micheál Martin from 30 years ago. Gerald Goldberg, Gus Healy. There's only, like, for me, as an independent, there's only been 3 independent Lord Mayors in the last 124 years. So I'm the 3rd independent Lord Mayor. The first one was in the 1940s, the second one was 5 years ago, and now it's kind of myself. So was Gerald Goldberg independent? He was, but then he turned to Phil Ford. But also you'll notice that there's a shortage of women.
Yes.
We have 6 female Lord Mayors. Jenny Dowd will be the first. And so one of the things I've done is that we do have a women's caucus in the council to promote gender balance, but also that we encourage more women to get involved in politics, in putting their names forward to be councillors. This is the outgoing women's caucus, and also I put Jenny Dowd on, the first female Lord Mayor up here as well. It's done by a former, painted by a former principal of the School of Art, what's now the Cork Art Gallery, man called Sarah McKenna. The other thing is that there are also what I call other random stuff here. All random stuff. This is a sculpture of Christy Rink, well done. This is a silver platter presented to a man called Major General Emmett Dalton on the occasion of his wedding in October 1922. Emmett Dalton was the man who picked Michael Collins up off the ground in the lawn and bring him back to Cork and tried to make sure the blood didn't go all the way out from his brains all over the cars, and trying to bring him into the hospital in the northwest of the city. His name escapes me at the moment. The other element here is that we're also twinned with a number of cities, sister city twinnings. San Francisco is one of them. Shanghai is one of them. We recently celebrated the 40th anniversary of the twinning with San Francisco. I was there in early March. Also Shanghai is over 18 years with Shanghai, but we also have Coventry, Cologne, Rennes. There's one other that's just escaped me, but this is actually just a model of a sea lion from San Francisco. I find this one is interesting. It does connect to yourselves a little bit. This is actually a Cork Oscar And so way back in the early 1950s, so 1949 we officially became the Republic of Ireland. And somewhere in the early 1950s, like the government of the day kind of wanted to celebrate the cultural heritage. That's now like 30 years on since the War of Independence, the foundation of the Free State, and now we're a republic. And they set up a thing called Toastmasters, which was like these cultural heritage festivals across towns and cities across Ireland. And I was on a Toastmasters festival held in Cork in 1954, and I was run by a guy called Dermot Breen. And Dermot Breen kind of noticed that Cork people liked cinemas, and they liked films. And so Dermot actually set up a Cork International Film Festival, and you could actually enter your film into this. And if you won a prize, you actually got this. This is a Cork Oscar, and this is one of the original ones that were commissioned, and actually they were made by Seamus Murphy, a very famous Cork sculptor. This is probably worth about 15,000 euros, what's in my hand. And as only recently came to light, I was doing some work with the Cork International Film Festival for their festival doing some history work with them and some walking tour work with them last November. And they showed me this sketch of a statue, and they were like, we've never actually seen the real statue of this. And I'm like, I have that upstairs. And we have Dermot Breen's work on actually this particular statue. Now I should tell you, this is actually modelled on a statue that's on the Other Maxima in UCC, Gable End. The statue of St. Finbar, it replaced of the which was put up there in the early 1930s, and then in the 1950s then the statuette kind of made of that particular statue by Seamus Murphy. So it's nice to have that piece. The other thing I say to people as well is that if you are a historian like myself, all of a sudden over my year people began to bring objects into me. You might have an interest in this. So one of the things that was brought into me actually was this, and I used it as a piece to remind people that there's so much heritage out there. So I can tell you that the grandnephew and the grandniece of this particular Lord Mayor came to me in November of last year and were like, would you like this? This has been hanging in our old home for many years. No, this, I don't know if anyone's into Cork history here. This is Lord Mayor who? Gus Healy, full marks there. But the thing about this, when this was brought in, I was kind of telling them, well, do you know anything about it? And they were like, no, it was just hanging, this was just a picture of our granduncle hanging on the wall staring at us for years. We don't want to move it on, but we need to find a home for it. So would you be interested, Kieran, in doing something with it? And we'll find a formal space for it. But I was saying kind of, I wonder who created this and who painted this. And down the end, of course, it's signed by the artist, and it says Ricky Lynch, 1971. And I said to the Healy family, like, do you know Ricky Lynch? Like, do you know any context? And I don't. So I put Ricky Lynch into Facebook, put in Ricky Lynch artist. And Ricky Lynch is still an artist, and he's a musician. He plays around town. And so we invited Ricky Lynch to come back in a month later, and Ricky then was able to tell the context of the story of why the painting came into being. So in his early 20s, he was dating a girl. And the girl was like, you're such a talented artist, you should do more with that. And he was like, yeah. And he was like, she said, I'll prove the point. So she took off into the northeast of the city, into Montanotti, knocking on doors, going like, my boyfriend is an artist, does anyone want to commission? Knocked on the door of a said Gus Healy, and he said, yeah, bring them all up, and it began the painting. But the thing is that Gus Healy was not Lord Mayor in 1971, so you have to borrow the chain. That's what Ricky said, and also that I think there was a number of 3 or 4 sittings at the time. So everything has a context, everything has a story, and I'm trying to. This needs to be kind of redone and kind of rehung and reported and so on. But I think the reason I mention is that every single person here, and every single person on the outside, they have a context, they have a family, they've got a backstory, and it's important to kind of drill into that particular context.
Can I just ask you?
Yeah.
Are we going to have a woman as Lord Mayor next year?
We don't know. No, because there's local elections.
I'm with you. I thought Colette Finn was going to be the Lord.
Colette Finn is the existing deputy Lord Mayor of the city. That doesn't mean you'll automatically become Lord Mayor next year. So I was never a deputy Lord Mayor of the city. I just was elected Lord Mayor. But it comes down to working with other members. You need 16 out of 31 members to support you. If you don't get 16 out of 31, you go nowhere. I got 22. This is these are what I call the last few pieces I want to show you. This is my social inclusion, which also links into in terms of yourselves. So the International Deaf Night, and Cork Deaf Club presented that to me. We've got Rainbow Cities Network, Pride Parade, Sanctuary Runners, in terms of people fleeing persecution, ending up in our cities and other cities across the world. Mary Crilly, who got Freedom of the City in 2022 for her work with the Cork Sexual Violence Centre. A lot of people do ask, like, if you become Free Person of the City, which is like the highest award you can get, like, what do you get? It's a silver casket, you get lots of respect, and also you can graze your cattle or sheep in the commoners of the city. And then people ask me then, where are the commoners of the city? Commons Road. And also
free parking.
And also a place called Tremore Valley Park began its life as a heritage for the city, and also the Loch as well, actually, the province of the city way back 200 years ago. The last two things I want to show you is that this artist has just escaped my mind, but this is a reinterpretation of the city's coat of arms. This is me on Culture Night. We have something like 25 festivals every year in Cork, 100 days of festivals. This is the last thing I want to show you, and I'll send you back. You can stay for another little bit and have the sandwiches and so on. This is a reinterpretation of the city's coat of arms. Two towers, ships in between, animals. Now why do I show this to you? Because like, the city's future hasn't been written. Like, we don't live also in 1920 or 1787, but it's all up to all of us. And in particular, I think the volunteer culture that we actually have in Cork that's involved in your organisation, and not just in your organisation, but across sporting organisations and other community organisations, is very, very strong in the city. We just need to mind it. But we all need to work together and partner up for the future of the city as well. The city at this moment in time is going through, it's evolving. The population is growing quite rapidly. There's many, many challenges, there's many, many opportunities, but we all need to work together on that. I think everybody has a part and everyone has a role to play, and that's why I've kind of left this as the last piece of a general tour that I give to people of the office. And it's a blank canvas for us, what we want as our coat of arms for the future, and what we want to see for the future. So that's that particular piece. There's loads of other things that I haven't shown you, but you could be here for like hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. But we are very, very blessed with this. I think the rooms that I've shown you, they kind of underpin the city's sense of place and its sense of identity, and that's very, very important going forward for the future. So long may we all kind of team up together and keep coming together to do what we do as well. I think togetherness is something that's a massive foundation into this city and region. It really is. We need to make sure it's kept. Now, I can send you back into the council chamber. Feel free to stay there for another half an hour, 40 minutes. There's loads of tea and minerals and probably a bottle of wine there as well.
Which our members give speeches. And we invite him and others to come.
No protests, please.
No protests. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, Lord Mayor, do they do guided tours of the City Hall? Might be a thing to bring in for the future, once a week or something like
The
that.
only person who does guided tours or was asked to be guided tours is me.
Yeah.
Because I know the history of the building and the space. So I think the other thing is that I suppose it's a living building, and so you can't kind of.
It was on a Saturday, for instance, off peak type of thing.
Yeah, I have to say, I mean, when usually the incumbent Lord Mayor would host many events like this, and any given week. For my year, it seems to have sped up. There's been loads of people going, I want to see the history. It's Kieran. So, but it's a regular occurrence that at least once a day there's always kind of like 2 or 3 groups. I mean, the office itself, I have 40 events every week. Yeah. So that's
Tadio Sutton was saying by the time June came, he was looking forward to Ango.
Yeah, but you enjoy it, don't you? Can see
I enjoy it. I thrive in it.
Yeah.
But I don't think it can be. You can't go beyond the 51 weeks because the energy that's required is off the wall. It's off the wall.
It's everything.
Especially if you're passionate about the city. But I've enjoyed meetings. I mean, you can imagine every hour you meet strangers.
Yeah.
And so you're not meeting the same people every hour.
So lovely, yeah.
And so I think there's and one thing I've discovered about Cork people is that they're friendly and they're talkative and they're chatty and everyone's doing great stuff. Every hour you meet someone who's doing something interesting or a group that's doing something interesting. You're kind of going, that's an interesting for the future of Cork. How can that piece be plugged in over here? I kind of discovered the community layer runs deeper than what I expected. It's like a massive seam or a layer that runs underneath the city at every street corner. I would have been familiar with the area representing the southeast, but not in the western parts of the city. So I've been lucky with I've got walking tours all over the city, but it's nice to learn where to parachute in directly into community groups and see
That you
what's
would
going
know
on.
as well.
Yeah, and the school visits were really interesting as well. Like there was 118 schools.
You'd never think that.
And they're not enough.
Yeah. So you were kind of like from a public speaking perspective. Like,
Let's be on the trouble.
you're at 5 speeches every half an hour to
Oh
like
my
400
goodness.
people. And so like you just put aside the fact that this is the crowd that you're like just addressed them in a dramatic way. Like it's one way of getting rid of your fear is walking through a room full of 400 people every half an hour. See Finbar's giving me a nod there. So,
Okay.
Oh yeah. Is there, could you please, Rob Mary is a brilliant singer, and I'd love us to end up with a song. Would you be able to just give us?
contract is I'll sing this song because I've no doubt that you all will probably say this to anybody who's up to publicly speak. Smile, though your heart is aching. Smile, even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by. If you smile through your fears and sorrow, smile and maybe tomorrow you'll see the sun come shining through. For you light up your face with gladness, hide every trace of sadness, although a tear may be ever so near. That's the time you must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying? You'll find that life is still worthwhile if you just smile. Thank you very much. I'm here again tomorrow.